Hello and welcome. You're with Money, Money, Money. I'm Sumaira Abdi. Volatility has become the buzzword in global markets over the last few weeks and months, with investors now getting increasingly nervous. In India, too, we're hardly immune to this phenomena given the wild swings that we've seen recently. Most experts are now advising that investors sit on cash rather than deploy that money even in reasonably safe investment options. So how do you deal with this surge in volatility? We have Feroz Aziz of Anand Rathi Private Wealth Management, who joins in this week with advice on whether capital protection should be your only concern, or can this really be a dip worth buying into, and if so, where? Feroz, thanks very much for joining in. You know, we speak about volatility so casually these days, but not a lot of us actually understand what this means. You know, so which actually means there's a lot of up and down in the market and there's a lot of uncertainty. Now, there's two schools of thought here. One says that, you know, when you see this increased movement, between the higher end and the lower end, you stay away because you don't know which way it's actually going to go. The other school of thought says that every time there's a dip, you should use that as a buying opportunity, and not just, the current dip, but every dip thereon. What should investors really do? I mean, what's a school of thought for small-time investors to follow?
Okay, news generally overwhelms the market. Market actually is news dependent in the short run, earnings dependent, corporate profitability dependent on the medium term, 3-4 years. In the long run, 10-20 years, it's the country's economic situation which will determine the growth. So now, but we can't ignore news because that actually overpowers earnings and everything else. So news can be categorized into two portions. If you look at the historical falls in the market, the corrections due to global news have a larger tendency to bounce back. So if news is global, you have to be lesser worried. If it is domestic, you have to be more worried. Then you can categorize news as whether news is something which is a shock and which never existed, or it's a news which was always there. It's just the timing it's happening now. See, if somebody asked, will China ever grow all the time at double-digit rates, the answer is a no. When will it slow down was the question. The third thing when it comes to news is the same news coming at different situations can have a different power. For example, if you look at the news, the same news coming when the markets are at a 25 price to earning multiple, it's going to have a different impact than the same news coming at 16 multiple. So these are the three key points which need to be kept in mind before you take a decision whether it's a buying opportunity or a selling panic or something.
No, this actually makes a lot of sense, but this is more in the theoretical sense, right? Now, if I've bought today or even invested in, say, mutual funds, and I see that the market keeps going lower, what should my strategy be? Should I actually be using that dip? Should I put more money to use, or should I stay away?
See, first thing is an investor needs to decide what is his allocation. Okay, if he's already full up on his allocation, any kind of fall should not ask him to, you should not actually be tempted to put more money. Okay. If you are 60% decided on equity, just stay with it. Even if there's a 20% fall, you don't increase it. So to answer the question, point blank, I think it's individualistic, portfolio based. If you have decided 50% should be in equity, just be that way. If you have decided that you have to be 60, but you're currently at 30, then make sure that you use this dip to bridge the gap.
But is there no case to be made for being a little greedy when you see an opportunity?
Of course, there is. That's called the tactical allocation. But I think that only comes when there is deeper falls, not in situations which 10-12% is the norm of the market. It just gets more spoken about, but a 12-15% correction, that's the key nature of equity, right? That's why people say in the long run it will be okay. Yeah, so I think just get to the strategic allocation, not the tactical allocation, unless there are further falls.
So this actually makes sense, all things being equal. But even small investors, they actually share a market where there are investors, traders, promoters, everyone's in the same market, right?
Absolutely.
So, and everything may not always be as it seems, or at least to a small investor, they may not be able to decipher the real moves behind the moves, or so to say, the fine print. What does a person actually do? How do they know, what for them is a real move in the market?
So basically, a person who's an investor, if you go back in time, if he's bought a mutual fund, like you said, if you looked at the country's first 5 private sector funds, and if anybody invested on any given day and invested for 10 years, the most unluckiest guy has made 14 to 18% post-tax. going through all this turmoil. So the most unluckiest guy making 14 to 18%, which is twice more than debt with the tax efficiency, is reason enough for somebody to actually isolate himself from the news and just say that I would let my strategic allocation be the way it is, and these guys can't harm me. The other two communities can actually eat away into my share.
Okay, so you're saying the unluckiest guy over a 10-year period could have made 14 to 18%. Then why aren't there more millionaires? I mean, everyone says that in the long term, risk actually gets negated, right? So why aren't more people there? Why aren't more people making money in the long term?
Because emotions take over. See, human beings have emotions, and it's easier said than done to invest for 10 years. And there are few people who have invested for 10 years. In fact, there was a research which said the dead people in India are the richest. Okay, and that's a Fidelity report which said that it's the people who don't take decisions. That's practically the situation. So why don't people make money? Emotion takes over. It's easier said than done to actually be invested for 10 years. And that's what actually doesn't let the person make the money, which is his greed or fear, which is infused from both the sides.
Okay, so then you're saying that a passive style of investing should be better than an active style of investing, even though there might be higher volatility?
See, yes and no. The passive style of managing should be for your large portion of your money. The biggest mistake people do is they get active with the entire portion of money, right? Your 80% of your money has to be static. Okay, it should be your strategic allocation. The tactical allocation is only to the 20% of your money. Like Warren Buffett said, that stock markets is a mechanism to transfer wealth from the active to the passive. So it's actually, it's again easier said than done to be passive, but 80% of your money should always be passive and should be isolated from any tactical moves which you would want to do looking at the situation, contemporary situation.
Yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense. All right, let's take a quick break on that. Welcome back. You're watching Money, Money, Money. We've been discussing the ways in which you can actually protect your portfolio when volatility strikes. And Feroz Aziz of Anand Rathi Private Wealth Management is our guide this week and helping us actually in this endeavor. So Feroz, let's get to all the practical tips now. When times are as volatile as this, is it better to take the safer bet with large cap funds, or should one actually venture out and even look at something like a mid-cap fund, or should one just look at fixed income? Which is the way out?
See, I think sticking and cutting your emotion and greed and sticking to what you decided before the fall and not changing your pathway midway is very important. So if you think, of course, large cap funds are significantly safer because of their whole propensity to not fall as much or not have so much volatility. So if you ask me specific asset allocation, a person should have out of his equity allocation at least 65% in large cap and about 35% of his equity portion in mid caps, because it's very important to actually have mid caps in your portfolio, because mid caps are going to be the potential large caps. So in times like these, actually you get very good bets and value picks which a fund manager is able to pick. So I would say having your 35% in mid caps, in fact going up as markets fall, and be contrarian and saying that every market fall actually increase your mid cap exposure would be a better strategy than reducing it.
Yeah, but that is only if mid-caps don't actually become small caps. Which actually is something we've seen, and it brings me to my next question, is that we've seen a lot of companies which are very aggressively trying to actually become a large cap. A lot of them are now on the verge of default. Some are defaulting already. So this is something that affects even the mutual fund portfolio, right? This is something that even affects a debt fund, for instance, a fixed income fund. So there's no escaping it, right?
Correct.
So Absolutely. Where does one hide?
Correct. I think one degree of protection is the professional management, but you rightly point. So if you have a mutual fund, his probability of actually picking any of these is lower, significantly lower than you actually getting carried away and buying these. So now when it comes to like a mutual fund, a debt mutual fund can have a couple of stocks which actually have turned around and they look quite dim today. So in a debt situation, since there is diversification, these are the rainy days where diversification actually comes to your rescue. Now if you look at the fund which actually had the largest exposure to a couple of these companies has fallen 2-3%. So if you're washing away in case of eventuality 2-3%, 2-3 months of return, it's not all at the end of it. You're not actually losing so much. You're losing 2-3 months return, which is fine. So that should actually not change your behavioral pattern.
Okay, what place does hedging have in a small investor's portfolio? We've heard of institutional investors doing it, big time guys doing it, but can a small investor actually have the wherewithal to hedge his portfolio?
Yes, see, one is an automatic hedge. Okay, today the country has high interest rates. So if somebody has 50% in equity, 50% in debt, that is an auto-hedged portfolio. Why, if the markets actually fall 50% over the next 3 years, and if somebody's actually got even 3 years to invest as a personal finance investment portfolio, you would generally look at longer periods. But if equity markets, and if a black swan event happens, and if the markets backtrack 50%, your 50 rupees in equity becomes 25, but your 50 rupees in debt, because of the high interest rates still prevailing in the country, can become 70, 75. So your portfolio is 100 rupees. So you should always look at protecting your portfolio and not individual components, because the smartest guy can actually not protect every component.
But finally, I want to end where we began. Is cash really an asset class? I mean, is it really an option for small investors, besides, of course, what you need for contingency and so on? But should one actually keep any large portion of cash idle in the portfolio?
No, I strongly would recommend not to have cash and be trying to wait for opportunities to enter. I think that's very petty when you look at the larger scheme of things. So no cash, except the requirement from a contingency perspective and to mitigate some degree of surprises which life has for you, but otherwise no cash.
Okay, so the biggest takeaway is make your portfolio allocation at periodic intervals and stick to it.
Absolutely.
No matter what.
Yeah, whatever emotions come, greed or fear, just cut them out.
All right. Okay, that makes sense. So thanks very much for all this advice, but we're not done with you yet. We have a lot more coming up on the show. Welcome back. You're with Money, Money, Money. Firoz Aziz of Anand Rathi Private Wealth Management has been decoding the portfolio metrics in times of volatility, and it's time now to answer some of the queries sent in by our viewers. So first up, we have Malvinder Singh, who calls in from Patiala. Hi Malvinder, how can we help you?
My monthly saving is 15K, which I can invest. And right now, I have no dependent. I would like to know about my investment portfolio. My goals are like, I would like to get a corpus of 20 to 25 lakh around 20 years from now. And again 20 to 25 lakhs in next 23 to 24 years.
Okay.
And for my retirement, I would like to know that for my corpus of 3 crores, how much I can invest right now in mutual funds or any funds like that. And my one more goal, I would like to have a corpus of 20 to 25 lakhs in next 8 to 10 years for my home and car.
Malvinder, this corpus amount that you've come up with, are these all accounting for inflation?
Yes, I have accounted 7% increase in inflation.
Okay.
I think inflation on specific goals which you have, I think has had a tremendous trend of a larger inflation rate than the 7% which the CPI or the government publishes. Like for example, education has an inflation of almost about 11 to 12%. So you will automatically need 4 times the corpus and not just the 25 lakhs each. Because if money depletes at 12%, it actually over 25-30 years, the requirement is going to be 4 times. The second portion is, which is your short-term goal, I think you should look for a home loan and not spend up all your savings into investing in property, because by the time you actually want the interest, want the home, the interest rates are expected to be significantly lower, so you would be better off investing than using your personal funds to buy yourself a home. Now moving on to the second portion, which is actually trying to decide the asset allocation which you need to follow, considering your goals are being very long term, except one of them. I think 80% of your money should be into equity and 20% should be debt. This is the most important component of a financial plan, which is the asset allocation, and stick to it through for the next 8-10 years, because that's when you might want to slow down your equity portion. I think I will want you to bifurcate this money into 12,000 towards equity and to 3,000 towards debt. In the 12,000, take 2 large cap funds, 2 mid cap funds. In the large cap category, you can certainly look at buying yourself an ICICI focused blue chip fund, which you can put in and then you don't have to bother about it too much. And then on the large cap category, one more fund would be Mirae Asset India Opportunities, and in the mid cap category, look at a Religare Mid and Small Cap and HDFC Mid Cap. This completes your equity portion. And then moving to the debt side, look at an ICICI Regular Savings and also look at a HDFC Corporate Bond Fund with an SIP of 1.5 each in the debt categories.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, Malvinder, you're already on the right track, and I hope Firoz's advice actually holds you in good stead. So all the very best for your financial future. All right, up next, we have Vikram Malik who calls in. Hi, Vikram. What's your question?
Number one, as I've shared my financial details, portfolio details to you, the questions would be, are the current investments on the right track to meet my goal? The goal would be to be building a corpus of about 5 crores by the age of 50, inflation adjusted. And in case there are any things that you would like me to tweak or recommend, please do share that. The second question is, I have health insurance provided by my employer, but I would like to take a a personal health insurance in which I can incorporate, also include my parents. So if you could recommend some of the better plans or the better insurance policies available, that would be great. And the third question that I have is, I have a ULIP, from ICICI Wealth Builder 2, which is not really doing that well. Because there are a lot of charges, etc. And this is something which I've already paid the premium for 2 years. And as per the policy, I'll have to continue it for another 3 years. In case I don't continue to pay the premium for the next 3 years, it will go into, the interest will be at 4.5%. So I just wanted to know whether you think it's prudent to continue to hold the plan or to come out of it.
Okay, so here's another young caller who seems to be pretty savvy in terms of his investments. He's, he's got PPF, he's got insurance, he's got an RD, he's got some allocation in stocks, he's got a clutch of mutual funds that he has going on, he has contingency. He now has 3 goals that he needs advice on.
For a person of his age, his goals are definitely achievable because he has time in his favor. So for his corpus, I think he will require a large systematic investment plan to be done. I think the stocks which he holds, it's always good to outsource this management of equity to a professional. Like, he has a smaller proportion in mutual funds, but he's doing most of the work of equity investing himself. And he needs to do an SIP to meet his FIST, which is the large goal of retirement, of almost about 18 to 20,000 rupees every month. And then every month, and over a year, every year increase it by about 4% increase on his investable surplus will actually get him the goal. As he actually has more dependence, then his goals will go up. So he needs to actually start accumulating more, because it's always expected to, he will get married and then he will have his kids. So I think very good for the one goal which he currently has, because he does not have too many dependents. Retirement is taken care of. Then coming to what health insurance which can cover his parents, because as parents get older, there is going to be a lot of medical expense. So I think a Kotak Family Floater is one of the best plans with the best settlement ratios and also a reasonably good premium on the lower side. The ICICI as a fund house on the equity side has shown tremendous professional management, which is actually added value. So I don't think you'll have to make any changes there.
All right, Vikram, I hope all of that advice works for you. All the very best. Thanks for calling. Finally, our last query comes in from Rajat Sharma. Hi, Rajat. What's your question? How can we help you?
I have query regarding my investment in currently in MNC fund. With my financial planner, which I am currently advised to, basically he is suggesting to put all maximum portfolio into these MNC. But my question is related to the risk that contains in it.
Perfect. So I think very important, Rajat, is to actually look at the large cap funds and mid cap funds. MNC strategy can't be your core strategy. If your advisor is telling you all your money should be in an MNC fund, I would tend to disagree blatantly and say that's certainly not a very good strategy. That can always be a tactical portion. The core portion has to be good, diversified large cap and mid cap. Even if you look at the contemporary situation, the globe actually actually has a lot of other issues to deal with. So Indian domestic companies can also do reasonably well. So stick to your large portion of your money with large cap and mid cap. In fact, you can go with zero in an MNC fund.
All right, Rajat, I hope that's helpful for you. Thanks very much for calling in. With that, we've come to the end of this week's episode. Feroz, thanks a ton for joining in and for advising all our viewers. And viewers, remember, if you too want your personal finance queries answered, all you have to do is keep writing to us at money@network18online.com. You can also find us on Twitter, write to CNBC TV 18 News, use the hashtag money. And remember that you can also log on to YouTube to catch this as well as all our previous episodes. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again next week.